this day and age, it's getting harder to find. Don't wanna fall behind. Think of all the time, rewind. Don't wanna fall behind. Listen to me, listen, and I will play a song for you. And if you choose to listen, listen, the hours will melt away, and I will fly for you. The sandbox became the telephone as the days became years. Oh, how time flies when you're so high. My God, I'm so high. The sky is like a sparkling apple pie. It's like a wrinkle in time. And now I'm old and gray. What will I say when I'm old and gray? Listen to me, listen, and I will play a song for you. And if you choose to listen, listen, the hours will melt away, and I will fly for you. Listen, darling, listen, our light is growing dim, but if we choose to live together, then no one must die alone, and I will fly for you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to It Matters Radio. Today is Sunday, and that means we are ready for our musical guest interview. And I always look forward to these shows because we give you a little bit more of an intimate look into the lives of the people behind the music. And Kerry, I see you have a gentleman with us today. Could you introduce him to us?
I absolutely would. Everybody, welcome to It Matters Radio, and welcome Lucas Rabel. He is a singer, a songwriter. I want to say a United States traveler because he's been to a lot of different cities. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lucas.
Good to be here, Kerry. Good to be here, Monica.
Now, Lucas, I want to go back to your junior high and high school years. You met a young man by the name of Ian Crawford, and you guys sort of began doing music. So talk a little bit about those early days for you and Ian.
It's funny because if you ask Ian, he has a different story of how we met.
Of course.
But the way I remember it is I had been playing guitar for a month, and I was on a school bus. I was in 9th grade, and this little 6th grader is on the way to middle school. And, he's not even supposed to be talking to the big high schooler. And he just sits down right next to me on the bus, takes one look at my guitar, and just looks at me and says, "Bet you I can play that better than you can." And I said, "Screw you, twerp. I bet you can. I've been playing for 3 weeks. I only know 2 chords on the thing." So, and then that was the first time I was kind of aware of him. And then by the time I was junior, my band was kind of the big band on campus, and we're closing for the talent show. And this kid comes in and he auditions. He ends up playing "Eruption" by Eddie Van Halen.
Not an easy task.
In front of everybody. And it's note for note, just nails it.
Wow.
As a freshman in high school. And so by the end of the week, he was in the band. I was like, all right.
He proved himself to you.
If you can't beat him, you best just ask him to join your band.
Hey, that's really cool. So, so you went on to college and you went to Las Vegas. Talk about your, you actually built a recording studio, I believe, like a cabin up in the hills or in the mountains or something like that.
Yeah, that was a really magical time for us. Basically, I went away to college. Ian went and toured with the cab, and then he called me up and said, "Hey, man, I got this opportunity. There's a cabin in Mount Charleston. It's about 45 minutes from downtown Las Vegas, which is kind of crazy, but it feels like you're in a John Wayne movie. It's quite a bit out. You get winter and you get snow. And anyways, we set up shop in this $10 to $12 million cabin and set up a recording studio. We got to go to Guitar Center, and it was like Supermarket Sweep, if you remember that show.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Put up Guitar Center. Just I remember going, is there anything else that's more expensive that you have in the back that you don't even show out here? And he was like, yeah, we do actually. And I was like, well, give me all that stuff too.
Wow.
It was a pretty crazy time. And yeah, we set up the recording studio, and basically it was myself, a man named Joey Resley, and a man named Ian Crawford, same cat that I met in middle school. And we were the three that lived in the studio, and we were all basically becoming songwriters and practicing our art. And basically we would all collaborate and help each other. And so it would kind of go like 8 hours. Joey would be working on his stuff, and we would kind of like listen to it and kind of say our little piece, and he'd be doing all of his stuff and maybe play drums on each other's stuff. And what can we do to make each other's songs better? And then for the next 8 hours, it'd be Ian. And then for the next 8 hours, it'd be me. And it was kind of like 24-hour rotation of music. And you'd be working on your tunes or whatever. And then I would go to sleep. My bedroom was right next to the control room. So they'd be mixing away, and I'd be sleeping in the next room. So even when I wasn't working on the songs, I was hearing them in the next room. It was just, it was like dreaming them, you know. It was kind of...
Wow.
Your
Immersion.
subconscious was getting the
Yeah,
information.
immersion. So
Yeah.
after Las Vegas, you moved to some very interesting towns. You went to Nashville, Chicago, Atlanta, and Georgia, and San Francisco. I want to talk a little bit about San Francisco. What was that scene like? Because that's like an entirely different environment, I would think, musically. What was that like for you?
It's a great town, man. I love the whole Bay Area. They're all kind of the same vibe. And, you know, Oakland gets a bad rap, but I love Oakland too. And there's just a lot of cool bands. Basically, I came to San Francisco because a guy that I met during the cabin days, his name's Patrick Martins. He had moved back to his home in Wisconsin, and I was living in Atlanta. And he called me up, and we basically we said, we want to play together again. Let's start a group. And he was going to come down to Atlanta, and then it just was determined. None of the stuff that I've done in my life was a part of any big plan. It was kind of like, oh, well, how about San Francisco? And then I just kind of said, sure.
Why not?
Why not? And the next thing we know, we're staying couch surfing, and we ended up getting a place in a rehearsal studio in the Tenderloin, no less.
Oh, yeah.
Lord.
Which is the worst neighborhood in the West Coast, really. And yeah, so we were basically squatting illegally into our rehearsal space, because we could get a rehearsal space where we could make music, or we could get a place that we could live, and we couldn't do both.
Right.
So we made the choice. I remember the first couple nights, there was probably the first 2 weeks or so, there was a pillow in the drum, the bass drum. And that was what we slept on, but there was only one of them, so we would trade off every night. You sleep with the pillow tonight, and I'll sleep with the pillow tomorrow night. And then by about 2 weeks, we'd made enough to go on Craigslist and get a futon. And then we were living large. We got a futon. We started. But yeah, there was probably about 4 or 5 months where we were living in that little rehearsal space. We did a ton of street performing, busking. We'd go to the BART and play in the subways until the police kicked us out, and go to the next station and then play for an hour until the same police kick us out. And they were always really nice. They because we were super respectful, and we tried to find places that were like in the loophole of, you know, because there's all these rules and stuff, you know. But it was one of the years, or it was the year that the San Francisco Giants won the World Series. And there was a great day that Carlos Santana, in the playoffs, he came and he had a sponsored event, and it was to support his charity. And he was working with the San Francisco Giants, and we were across the street performing, and we see Carlos Santana walking down the street, and so we were like, oh, let's take a break and see where this guy's walking. Like, this is kind of crazy. And he made a speech for about 15 minutes in Spanish, and it was really cool. I was like about 10 feet from him. The only thing I understood the entire time was, I am a Moor. I am love, and I love that. The only thing I understood was that, you know. But his vibe, I knew what he was talking about, and he was talking about helping each other out and being kind to each other, you know. And he had a really cool vibe. But yeah, San Francisco is a hell of a town. I love it there.
I just have to tell you a quick story about myself. It's only going to take a little bit here, but my friend and I decided to do some busking in Fisherman's Wharf, and we actually made $20. Like,
that's awesome.
And all we did was stand there and sing folk songs. So yeah, it's a good area for a lot of street performing, and actually some famous
At least
people
it
come
was
out of
then. I don't know about now.
No, this was
Kind of turned
yes,
into New
this
York.
was back in the '60s, but at that time it was pretty magical. You could do that. So after we do a little musical break, I want to talk to you about Georgia and the haunted cellar.
Oh yes, we must hear about
interesting. That. We must hear about that. So Monica, if we could take a break and then we come back.
Okay, here you go, folks. Enjoy the music.
Welcome back, everyone, to It Matters Radio. We are talking to the fabulous Lucas Rabel. He is musician, singer, songwriter, has traveled all over the United States, basically. But I want to concentrate on Georgia. Because according to your biography, you would write songs on a piano in a haunted basement. Talk about that.
Well, to say that this was a haunted house or a haunted basement is, it was a haunted 15 square miles. I mean, this whole area is quite unlike anything I've ever seen. It's on the southwest side of Atlanta, about 15 minutes from the airport. And if you take a walk down the way, you can see the graves of Confederate soldiers. And
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
if you take a walk down the way, you can see like old farmhouses that are just, suffice it to say that this place is like a center for paranormal activity. And I was living there, and there was a basement in the house that I lived in, and a piano in that basement. And that's the first time I'd kind of like messed around in college and practice rooms, but I never got the opportunity to live in a place with a piano and play every single day. And for about 9 months, I really didn't even play guitar. I would just sit in that basement for like 8 to 10 hours a day playing the piano, and I'd like learn all the songs I learned on the guitar, but I'd be like, well, I know this chord, and I just knew how music works too. So I was like, well, this is an A, and if I go, okay, that's the third, so that'd be a major, and then I just kind of taught myself, kind of, but I also feel very guided because the very first time I ever walked into that basement, I just sat down on the piano, and I instantly started playing a song. It's a song that'll be on one of my next records. The record's going to be called Damn the Weather, and the song is called Misery. And it's a song about, I had just read a book called The Diary of a Slave Girl. And this song is kind of telling a little bit of her story. And so it's a very intense and very spooky and song about slavery and living on a plantation and being brutalized, and how terrible that is. And but I feel like the song just happened. It was one of those things where I just walked down and instantly started playing the song. It wasn't like I went, oh, should I, or there wasn't any thought about it. It was just there.
Right there.
And
how about the lyrics?
Gather around, friends, and I'll tell you a tale of when the whips ruled the highway and flesh was for sale.
Wow.
No more days of misery. And his name was called Flint, though this man was a beast. And they called him a doctor, though he had to be the evilest man I ever did see.
Wow, I love it.
And in all of her days, she never was free. But my mother, she did her best for me. But these bonds upon my heart still bleed. No more days of misery. And when I was a boy and I couldn't yet see, my father said, son, you've got to be enduring all this misery. He said, son, you'll be working all 8 days a week. You work to the bone and you ain't got no sleep. No more days of misery. One day that doctor did visit my mother in bed, and for what he did there, I did wish him dead. But if I would speak, I'd never be fed. And one day my daddy said he'd had enough. So he fought like a man, though it cost him his life. My brother, too, was cut down by the knife, ordered by the lips from that doctor's wife. And now mother is all I have in life. Those are the lyrics of it. But,
that's beautiful. Even, I
Wow.
mean, it's sad, but it's so realistic of the times. Now, did those lyrics just come to you also?
Yeah, just sang the song in basically real time. Took about 5 minutes to write and 8 years to make a record of.
It's a record
Good.
worth making.
Right, it is.
Absolutely. It's wonderful.
When you went down to the supposedly haunted basement, though, did you, after you did the song, did you feel like you were channeling perhaps the spirit?
Well, so on a daily basis, I would come down, and my buddy that I lived with, I'd come downstairs. You know, I'm a musician, so I'd wake up at noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon and saunter on downstairs, and he'd just be staring at me all funny. And I'd be like, what are you looking at? What is your problem?
Right.
Why are you looking at me like that? And he goes, did you just wake up? And I'm like, yeah, I just woke up. And he's like, so you haven't been you just woke up. And I'm like, yeah, I just woke up. What are you freaking out about? And he's like, well, for the last hour and a half, I've been hearing the piano play, and I thought you were down there playing the piano.
Oh,
And I heard the piano downstairs playing itself on multiple occasions.
wow.
Did
there
it
was one
scare
time.
you at all, or did you?
Oh, there was one time I was highly just terrified. There was only one time though. Most of the time it wasn't scary, but the time that was scary was I was writing a song, and when I would write a song, I would basically then I'd want to record it, and I was just trying to get like a full take of the song, you know, just to be able to play the song without making a mistake, and then have that as a demo to refer to later. And so I get done with the take, and I'm like not sure it's the right take, and I'm like and I put my headphones on, and I push play to listen back to the take I had just recorded. And there was what I described as the sounds of hell. Like there was like screams and like beastly sounds coming from my headphones.
Right.
And and my blood ran cold, and I just ripped off my headphones, and I was like, okay, that take is going to be fine. I like slammed down my MacBook, and I run as fast as I can up the stairs where my buddy is in his room. And I go up to him, his name's Christian, and I'm like, hey man, what's up, dude? And I like just start playing the song, and there's the take, just like I'd played it. And it was like a lighthearted song. It's not even like that was a creepy song or anything.
Right.
It's like there's the little innocuous little love song I wrote playing back. It wasn't playing back those crazy sounds again.
Wow.
Just when you
There was
played it back
a lot
the
of
first
things.
time.
There was an entity in the backyard. I'd go out and smoke a little Cheech and Chong at night and kind of unwind after my day. And I would hear this thing, and there was like a tree line. There's like a forest right in the backyard, but we've got a little bit of grass. And this thing would run right at the tree line, and I'd hear it run at the tree line and stop. And it was like in a kind of like don't mess with me sort of way.
Right.
And one day I kind of like, it was happening every night. And so I chased it one night, and I start running alongside it, and I can see it, I can hear it in the woods running away from me. So I'm running along the tree line with it, and then I hear it jump, go up in a tree above me now, and I hear it go off that tree, on another tree, on another tree, on another tree, into the tops of the trees. I don't know what the hell that was, and I don't think it was even necessarily physical. But suffice it to say, that was a crazy, crazy place to live.
Yeah, what an experience. I know. Halloween's just around the corner, so.
Yeah, we may be hitting you back, but I tell you. So you have a new CD came out called Western Amber Skies. And let's talk a little bit about the fruition of that. And what's your favorite song on that CD?
It's kind of like asking what's your favorite child.
Yeah.
I kind of have my favorites, but everybody else has their favorites too. Little Darling, I like. I like Fly Away. But it's just kind of, I love them all. And I move through them all too. They're all basically, Western Amber Skies is chapter 1 of the story of my life in 5 chapters. And I now have 5 albums in the process. Highway Traveler is chapter 2, and that's almost finished already. And so, yeah, basically there's Damn the Weather and The Long Road Home. And I have like a 5, each album is a different kind of vein. And basically Western Amber Skies is the beginning, chapter 1.
Okay.
So Western Amber Skies is a lot of childlike optimism. Western Amber Skies is a young man looking to the horizon. Fly Away is like you're in your little town and you want to go explore the world. You're at the point in the story where you're like Luke Skywalker on Tatooine, and you're like, but I don't want to get part converters for the, you're like, Uncle, I don't want to do, like, and he's looking out at the universe and he's going, wow, I want to go on this grand adventure, So that's kind of Western Amber Skies is the childlike ambition and the looking toward the horizonness and all that sort of stuff. And then chapter 2 that's going to be coming up is Highway Traveler. So that kind of gives you an idea what that's going to be about, is now you're leaving your home and going on this journey. But Western Amber Skies is just part 1.
Wow, you're busy, I tell you.
Yeah.
Now, aren't you going on tour?
Right now, I'm just kind of promoting my record, and we're building another studio in Ian's basement. So this will be round 3 or 4 in our building studios together.
Make
And,
sure it's not haunted. Oh, sorry.
or maybe it'll make it better. Many of the places we've worked over the years have been, but I don't sense anything in this place yet.
Cool.
Nothing weird has happened. So
Well, that's good. That's good. You already
good.
experienced that, so.
Yeah, I don't need to do it again.
So, Lucas, where can we find your music? And I think you also have a website you'd like to maybe talk about a little bit?
Yeah, lucasrabel.com, and that'll always show all of the other places, like the links to the iTunes and Amazon, CD Baby, and YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that sort of stuff, Twitter. Yeah,
Cool.
I'm in all the places that you expect to find me. We have some 2 videos coming up for Western Amber Skies that I've been in collaboration with the guy that I was living in Atlanta with in that haunted house. He's been making some YouTube videos.
That's fun, though. YouTube. We lost your audio there, Lucas. So I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right. Okay, Lucas has found his voice again.
Right.
But you guys got a treat. You got to hear an extra song. So
Yes,
that's always a good thing.
So, Lucas, what are future plans for you in the next year or so?
Finishing Highway Traveler, and I just finished very near finished mix of the song 2. It's a 10-song album, and I've got all of it tracked completely, so it's just in mixing now. Then it'll be onto the album design and mastering sort of stuff. And for that is the guy that I met in from Australia, but I met in Nashville that we talked about last week. Other people can hear that story somewhere if they want to track it down. But Craig Cumming is his name. He masters my stuff. So pretty soon I'll be getting a hold of Craig and sending my stuff over Dropbox down to Perth, Australia, where he does the masters. And yeah, I always like to, it's a romantic kind of thing to just be like sitting there thinking like, my music's being worked on the other side of the world right now.
That's kind of
exciting.
I love it.
That's exciting.
We like I like to bring up Bernie Taupin and Elton John because they collaborated in a way that was kind of similar, where they were thousands of miles away from each other.
Right.
Bernie would just send Elton lyrics, and I just send Craig songs, and he masters them. You know, so it's kind of fun. But yeah, then the next. Then there's 3 more albums in this kind of suite of albums. And I always knew I wanted to make a big piece, but at the same time what took me a long time to figure out is how to make it digestible for people and not overwhelm them. So, every 6 months is another 10 songs. But then when it's all together, you can kind of look at it as it's one story. It's all about storytelling for me. It's like an epic, it's like the Odyssey or, Star Wars or something.
Cool.
Or Wizard of Oz.
So
Yes.
you could
Yes.
kind of do a rock concert. I mean, what do you call it? Like the Who did? Tommy and
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
rock opera.
rock opera. Yeah.
Rock opera. Yeah,
That's
that would
definitely
be really
conceptual. Me and Ian, when we were kind of learning to make albums, one thing is learning to write songs. And when you learn to write good songs, that's one thing. And the thing is, it's like an artist, and you might do a study, they say. Like I'm doing a study on how to make leaves. And so you practice drawing leaves. And you do the same thing with songwriting. It's like, I'm doing a study on this kind of song. So you start learning to write different kinds of songs. And then if you get to a point where now it's like, okay, well, how can I use all these things to tell a story in a really cohesive way and develop like a sonic signature? And yeah, bring it back to storytelling, because the music is never more than a vessel. I think a lot of music artists get too wrapped up in the music. And what I love to delight in is to remind myself and others how meaningless music is. And that's what makes it so important. That's what makes it so meaningful. And people get all like, whoa, music's not meaningless. And I'm like, but dude, it doesn't go food, shelter, guitar. Like, that's not. So if you get to play guitar today, you've got, most things are okay. Like, music's the sousson. Music's the thing that makes the spice of life. It means that we're living and not surviving. It means that we're beyond existing. So I love to revel in the unnecessariness of music.
I have to say, your songs, you're such a great lyricist because they tell a story. And to me, that's what makes good music. Because, without that story, there's just, to me, sound. And it might be okay to dance to or whatever, something like that. But you're not going to draw that audience, draw that attention, and have people focus on that moment without the lyrics that are going to get people. And that's something you do so well.
Yeah, and the story. I mean, the music can tell a story too. But yeah, the story does need to be there. There needs to be a narrative element. Something me and Ian talked a lot about when we were learning to get beyond writing songs and to writing albums is it's like a movie, man. And what do movies have? There's themes. There's values being communicated. So we talked about, and we even like drew up like what makes a narrative, like let's actually study some story structure and beginning, middles, and ends, and start thinking of music in those terms instead of like, here's my little single. It took me 2 weeks to make, and I think I worked hard, and there's some of that out there. And versus, like I think music is more to be respected than that. There's something slightly manipulative about the approach I just described of let me put out my single and get something from it versus the reason I wanted to make music was because I had very difficult times in my life, and I have had very low lows, and I know what it's like to be lonely and starving and near death and near poverty and near a lot of lack. But in those times, there was another world that could be shown to me in the songs I was listening to. And if I was living in and amongst cruelty, there was kindness in the songs that I listened to.
Yes.
And even if I couldn't find the positive role models in my immediate environment, I could find this whole new world of my potential and my values and what it is to be human and what it is to treat each other with love and with kindness and compassion and to be a part of a family and to be a part of something bigger than yourself.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And the reason I make music is because I'd like to give that to someone else and just to be a small part of a very big chain.
It is. I always thought that, people watch movies and they're always so exciting, the movies, but so would our lives be if we had music played behind everything that we did.
Wouldn't it though?
That was an episode of Family Guy, by the way. Peter Griffin gets his own theme music. It's amazing. Riding on the bus.
I know. Wouldn't that be great? Doing a talk show.
Talking to Lucas. Anyway.
I know we're being silly, but why not?
One last question, Lucas. What does Lucas do for fun?
I kind of do. I like to tell people I do one thing. People are like, "What are you doing today?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I doing today?"
I'm talking to you.
I'm working on my music, and there are tons of things I'd love to do for fun, but honestly, I can't really tell them that I do any of them because right now, in this point in my life, I wake up and I go to work at my guitar store and I play guitar there, and then I come home and I work on mixing or writing songs or talking to fine folks like you and just trying to kind of spread the word,
Yeah.
And that is fun for me. Like today I had to do some yard work, and that was, so what I do for fun is talk to you guys. I just figured it out. That yard work was a pain. Now I get to come in here and do this.
Well, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Beat yard work, huh? That's good to know.
I think we beat yard work every day. So, Lucas, thank you so much for joining us again. We so appreciate it. I just have one quick comment, and that's about the ghosty toasty thing. I don't know if you are aware of this, but where you live, and that area where you lived in Georgia, was where the railroad was. The
Underground Railroad?
The railroad that the slaves, it was called
Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad ran through your area.
Yeah,
So you could be hearing a lot of spirits in that cellar. Just wanted to let you know.
There's a barn that I could tell you a story that would make your blood run cold about that place.
We're going to save
We
that.
are having a Halloween. No, we're having a Halloween show.
Yes,
I would
we are.
love you to meet with us on Skype again and
Absolutely.
tell us that story, and we'll add it. Okay?
Totally.
And
I
also,
can pre-release this spooky song for you guys because the album will be ready, but I'll work on one.
Fantastic.
Yes.
That'll be great.
We'd love to have you play your spooky song on our Halloween show for sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lucas. We just enjoy. We could talk to you for hours because you're just a wonderful
You are.
guy.
You have to come back. Maybe
Yeah.
6 months to a year or something. Let us know how you're doing.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
In the meantime, send us all the music you have, and we'll get it streamed. Okay?
Absolutely, Monica.
All right, Lucas. You take care, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Wonderful talking to you.
Same here.
hands with our foe and rejoice with our friends. What harm could it do as long as I'm with you? What harm could it do? It is what I'm here to do. Sing a song until the song is through. Don't you carry fear. I will sing love songs for years. 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 The skies grow black, but our light glows bright as our feet dance fast to the love songs of gold. Shake hands with your foe, shake hands with your soul. It is what I'm here to do. Sing the song until the song is through. Don't you carry fear. I will sing love songs for years. 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 I will sing love songs for years.